So I think that's very good.
I love doing this. I can close my eyes and do that. Don't put me up here. I heard a little thunder. My job is they didn't show up. Not realize the good thing is going to I'm going to that's why we have to get tripped up. Yes. You don't slow down. You're running right into each other. So this one also. Yep. Oh, I haven't said it not yet. Right. Yeah. That's just I think Rich, I mean, Bill was the best one to tell me. Rich, Yes, yes, that's a nice frame. It's great.
My trick on that, just following around.
Oh, yes.
Okay, how y'all doing? Real good, good, great, great. Jesse, what's happening? All good, good to see you.
You guys all right?
How are you?
How are you?
Okay. Out of your it lasted this long. I've been out of the months. Yeah. And a couple of them came from Alaska. So you don't work for us. You go to basically you go all the way down, and you come back to stay in Alaska.
I think it's like get stuff there that is cool enough for them to see and not drive.
Moving after the rain.
This would only bother if the
You'll have three.
But at the same time, you don't want
All rise. The Alachua County Court of the 8th Judicial Circuit of Florida is now open in ceremonial session. The Honorable Chief Judge Mark W. Mosley presiding. Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. My Girl Scouts Troop 995.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. If you'll please remain standing at this time for the invocation to be offered by Bishop Christopher Stokes of the New Beginnings Christian Worship Center.
Let us pray. Our Father, we thank you for this day. As we come now in your presence for the investiture of the Honorable Jonathan Ramsey, as we come now to install him into his office. We ask that you would bless him now, that he would be able to rightfully divide your word and the law. We pray that he will always seek you first, that he will seek justice, and that justice will prevail. We ask that not only will you bless him, but will you bless his courtroom, and will you bless all the judges that serve in this distinct building. And we ask that you will continue to lead and continue to guide, continue to bless their going out as well as their coming in. And we ask you honestly, God, that you would just continue to be a God of grace and a God of mercy. And this we ask in your name. Amen.
Amen. Please be seated. I want to first say thank you to Girl Scout Troop 995 for leading us in our Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you for being here today and doing that for us. Also, thank you, Sheriff Gainey, for opening court for us today. I want to say good afternoon and welcome to everybody to this ceremonial session of the 8th Judicial Circuit for the investiture of the Honorable Jonathan D. Ramsey, Alachua County Judge. I'd like to take just a moment and acknowledge some of our local officials. As I've already shared, Erin Mary Gainey is with us today, as well as Alachua County Court Clerk Jess Irby, State Attorney Brian Kramer. There he is near the back, and Chief Assistant Heather Jones, who is going to be addressing us today. Court Services Assistant Director Joe Lipsky, and also Court Services Assistant Director Salethia Jenkins Brown. There they are in the back. City of Alachua Mayor Gib Kerper is here, and there. Thank you for being with us today, as well as Waldo Council Member Monique Taylor is with us today. I hope I haven't overlooked anyone, but that's the list and those that I are aware that are present. Thank you for coming today. This is an important event for the judiciary and our community, and we appreciate your being with us today. I want to take just a moment and acknowledge my fellow judges who are with us today. I'm going to begin in the back. We have Levy County Court Judge Luis Bustamante, Alachua County Judge Christine Van Vorst, Bradford County Judge Tatum Davis, and our Gilchrist County Judge Cherie Lancaster. We have now Circuit Judge Sean Brewer and Circuit Judge Craig DeThomasis. That's our back row. We have Circuit Judge Gloria Walker here to my left, and Circuit Judge Denise Ferrero. So I'm getting nervous here a little bit. I'm already forgetting my judges' names. Judge, I can't remember. Suzanne Wilson Bullard, the Judge Donna Kime. I'll have to bear this a long time. Judge Philip Penna, Judge James Kolaw, Judge Bill Davis, Judge Mitchell Bishop from Union County. We have Judge George Wright here with us. We have senior judges, which I'm quick to join soon. I'm joining their ranks shortly, but we have Jim Nylon here, I'm glad, and Judge Pete Sieg, who has joined us today. Thank you all for your presence today. One of the reasons we refer to this as a ceremonial session, of course, is because even though we do that and it's a ceremonial event, it's also because Judge Jonathan Ramsey has already been invested with the authority of our Alachua County Judge. He's been working, doing his job now since May the 1st, I believe. He became authorized to be county judge when Governor DeSantis appointed him and signed that. And he submitted his qualification fee, took a written oath that was submitted, and upon that, he began working here in Alachua County. I'm now in my 20th year on the bench, and nearer to the end of my service in this capacity than the beginning. Hopefully, a lot nearer and to the end. I say that because I don't have to please anybody anymore. I will retire long before my term is up. So I'm somewhat of a federal judge now. I don't have to worry about elections and those things any longer. So when I say this, I don't have to please anybody. I'm going to tell you that I am proud to serve with these judges that are my colleagues. I think we have as fine a bench, if not the finest bench in the state of Florida. I'm proud to be chief judge. I've been proud to work alongside of the judges. We've had a great judiciary, and the judges that we now have are, I can tell you, committed to the law and justice and seeing to it that it's done. They take their role seriously, and I think they are with great humility as judges. We hope will always have try to carry out their responsibility. This is one of the largest geographical circuits in the state of Florida, but as far as population, we are a smaller to mid-sized circuit, but despite that, we've had tremendous influence in the state of Florida in the judicial branch. In many ways, our lawyers have had a great impact. I started to list some of the significant people that have influenced our state, and I just started with judges. And I began with Judge James Tomlinson, who we have a professionalism award in his honor because of what a fine judge that he was. And Judge Stephen Mickle, that this building is named for. We have had judges like Stan Morris and Bob Cates, who have led Jim Nylon and Pete Sieg and others. It wasn't long. I had such a list. I just knew I don't have time to talk about all of the accomplishments of our judiciary in the past, many of whom are serving on important committees right now in this group over here across our state. It's a judiciary you can be proud of. And I'm proud to serve with them. I could say great things about every one of these judges as to how they go about doing their job. There is one judge that I do want to mention, served alongside of him for 19 years, and that's the late Walter Green, who retired from the bench at the end of January of this year due to health reasons, and sadly he passed away March 26th. It was his retirement that opened up this judicial seat. And Judge Green was a committed county judge. He was a committed public servant, and he was committed to his community. He loved this community, he loved the people of this community. He just did so much, both as a prosecutor, as a mentor, so many things. And I say that to say to Judge Ramsey, you've got big shoes to fill. I'm happy to say in regard to that his mentor judges, and based on the reports that I'm hearing, that he's well on his way to fulfilling those shoes and being the kind of judge and doing the work, and from what I've seen, exactly what we would hope that our county judges would be. And we've gathered here today, Judge Ramsey, to witness your solemn promises to the citizens of Alachua County and to the great state of Florida today. And in making those promises, I always say one of the reasons it's great for us to assemble. It reminds all of the judges who are present here today, we too have made similar promises to this circuit and to this community. And we need to be reminded always of those oaths that we take and promises that we make to serve our community. So it's my privilege as Chief Judge to preside over this proceeding. I want to thank you all for being here today as we go through our program. At this time, we're going to have the administration of the oath of office by the Honorable George Wright, who is Circuit Judge here in the Eighth Circuit. And so if you'll come forward to take the oath.
All right, I'm going to turn this so that hopefully you all can hear us. And I'm going to need an assistant maybe to come hold this for you. So while we're waiting, I've known Judge Ramsey for a long time. He was actually my intern when he was still in law school. I taught him everything that he knows. And then Jack Fine spent the next 6 years undoing everything that I taught him. One thing I didn't know is that his middle name is David. And so I had to learn that to give the oath. Well, even though this is your day, it's also my day too, because you've invited me in here. And my middle name is Micah. So I looked through the Bible and I think of no better passage to commemorate today than Micah 6:8, which is, what does the Lord require of us but to do justice, to love kindness, and to walk humbly with our God. And I know you and I know your heart, and I know that this will be something that you will carry with you today. So Judge, please put your hand on the Bible and raise your hand. Repeat after me.
All right.
I, Jonathan David Ramsey,
I, Jonathan David Ramsey,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support, protect, and defend
that I will support, protect, and defend
the Constitution and government of the United States and the state of Florida.
Constitution of the United States and government in the state of Florida. Let me redo that part.
The Constitution and the government
The Constitution and the government
of the United States
of the United States
and of the state of Florida.
and of the state of Florida.
And that I am duly qualified to hold the office
And that I'm duly qualified to hold the office
under the Constitution of the state.
under the Constitution of the state.
And that I will well and faithfully perform
That I will well and faithfully perform
the duties of county court judge
the duties of county court judge
on which I am now about to enter.
on now which I am about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Judge.
At this time, we'll have remarks from Heather Jones, Chief Assistant with the Eighth Judicial Circuit State Attorney's Office.
Permission to move the podium.
You may.
Thank you. May it please the court. Hello, everyone. My name is Heather Jones. I want to thank Judge Ramsey for asking me to be here today on this special day. I am the Chief Assistant State Attorney, but more importantly, I think for this situation, I was the County Court Division Chief and Intern Director during Judge Ramsey's 6 years with the State Attorney's Office, including his 2 law school semesters. I'd like to start a little bit with his early years. Jonathan David Ramsey is the middle child to, and this is going to come full circle, to Sally and David Ramsey. And he has an older sister, Amy, and a younger brother, Benjamin. Amy's married to Alan and has 3 beautiful girls. And of course, Judge Ramsey is married to Anya and is the proud papa of little Sabrina, who's doing her best to pay attention to what I'm saying. And of course, very special to his heart is little Maya, who are both here. According to Mom, fairness and equity have always been important to Judge Ramsey, even when he was a little guy. He was always very honest and truthful. And this may be a mother's love speaking, but she tells me that he never lied. He was a constant self-reporter. I can tell you from my years of supervising him, there is at least a little truth to that. Because anytime he had a misstep, like most of us do in our lives, he was always the first to tell me. I was never going to hear it from a judge or from a defense attorney or from a colleague. I would hear it from Judge Ramsey first. I understand he was an excellent athlete and loved baseball. He denies this. He's shaking his head. But he also loved communicating, sharing his thoughts, and providing information. I think Sally and I agree that he might have made an excellent sports reporter if he didn't go in this direction, but we're glad that he did. He got his Bachelor of Arts in Communication from Florida State University. Oh, no. Judge Davis, you will find that things get better very quickly. Okay. He did go to the University of Florida, however, to get his master's in political science with a specialty in campaigning, and then got his law degree, also from the University of Florida in spring of 2012. Now, while in law school, he did intern twice at the state attorney's office. And so I pulled out all of his evaluations because I honestly thought I would get something that was a little embarrassing, but ultimately endearing, so therefore appropriate for an investiture. But I didn't find anything embarrassing. Everything was glowing: diligent, intelligent, focused, professional, detail-oriented, reliable, well-spoken. These are actual comments directly from multiple evaluations from multiple assistant state attorneys. I will say that the most shocking thing I found in Judge Ramsey's entire personnel file was the fact that Judge Wright wrote an evaluation. In 10 years as the intern director, the absolute hardest part of my job was to get then Assistant State Attorney George Wright to pen an evaluation for one of his interns. So what that tells me is that intern Jonathan Ramsey was someone very special. After 2 semesters of working with our office, he came to us and said, "I'd like to become an assistant state attorney." He claims, or he says, I'm not going to say claims, but he said that Chief Assistant Jeannie Singer at the time really inspired him to become an assistant state attorney. She was a trial practice instructor at the time and was the judge for his first ever mock trial. While he found her to be terrifying on the bench, I took that directly from a letter that he wrote to us in his personnel file. He also credits her with changing his life. Miss Singer convinced him, a self-proclaimed professional student, that he could use his talents to help people by coming to, after law school, by coming to the state attorney's office. So that sets the stage for his interview. For those of you who know Bill Cervone, you know a couple things about him. First, you know that he's incredibly funny, but he has a very dry sense of humor. Also, he's intimidating. Some people don't think so, but young lawyers and interns find him very intimidating, and he's really not trying to be. And so we're sitting in Mr. Cervone's office, and we're interviewing, and we're going through the interview process. It's 30 minutes, it's a lovely time. This is going beautifully. And at the end of the interview, Mr. Cervone completely deadpan says, "Everyone tells me that you would make a wonderful asset to our office. But as you may know, there's a local criminal practitioner named John Ramsey. He's a defense attorney. He's not a prosecutor, but frankly, I think it would be far too confusing to the public to have 2 John Ramseys in our local criminal bar." Without missing a beat, intern Jonathan Ramsey said, "That's not a problem. I saw this coming. If you hire me, I will change my name." He then offered a couple names like Samuel, Thomas, Carl. I can't remember, but he threw out a few names. And so what I think Mr. Cervone realized that we already knew is we had someone very special in JR, which is what we began calling him as a bit of a please hire him, we'll call him JR. In preparing my comments, I made some calls to a lot of Judge Ramsey's contemporaries. And again, I was looking for some embarrassing stories, but I mostly got glowing reports. What I heard from most people were these words: thoughtful, discerning, fair-minded, kind, helpful, generous with his time and talents, and an excellent trial attorney. One of my favorite comments I got was, "My time at the SAO was a team sport, and JR was an integral player." Speaking of helpfulness, one of the former assistant state attorneys I was talking to was going on and on. He was a young prosecutor when Judge Ramsey was becoming a bit of an elder statesman in county court. He was on his way to the circuit bench, or circuit, not bench, sorry. He was on his way to the circuit, circuit prosecution. And this person said, "He was so helpful to me in my early practice. He would help me with trial strategy. He would help me with preparation. He would be a sounding board for legal issues. He would help me with some do's and don'ts in front of our local judiciary." Midway through all of these comments, he said, "Actually, that might be David Byron." And so I share that story, not just because it's funny, but because I think we all believe that Assistant U.S. Attorney David Byron will make it to the bench someday. And I just want him to know that I have about half of my comments already written after that conversation for your investiture. I'm joking, of course, although he did say that, we continued to discuss it, and he did agree that his memories were of Judge Ramsey, although David Byron makes an excellent colleague as well. One of the things I can say about Judge Ramsey is it is important to him to see both sides of the issue. Maybe it's because he wants to be prepared. When anyone who's ever done a case with Jonathan Ramsey, has ever been in a courtroom or a hearing, knows that he is the most prepared person in that courtroom. But it may be something more than that. It may just be that it's so important to him to fully understand both sides of any issue. One of the individuals I was talking to said he had great passion, of course. He had great passion when he was pleading a case for a hurt victim or for an injured party in his criminal practice. Of course, he had great passion. But he went on to say this: there were plenty of people in our office who could pump you up about your position on the case, on an issue, that could pump you up about the righteousness of your cause. But if you wanted something more than passion, you went to Jonathan Ramsey. If you wanted someone to talk through your position and, just as importantly, help you see the position of the other side, the other party, the others that would be affected, you went to Jonathan Ramsey. He was the sober voice, the reasoned voice, the objective voice. In doing so, you didn't only get another perspective, you often got the right answer. What greater attribute could a member of our judiciary possess? Earlier, I mentioned Jeannie Singer, who shared with me some of her favorite things about Judge Ramsey, and I've woven them through my comments already. But she also mentioned to me that this is probably one of my last opportunities to give you advice, to make the sort of suggestions that I've grown accustomed to in your life as a supervisor and a friend. So I will do that. In your time on the bench, please be yourself. Be the gentle, kind, fair-minded listener that you have always been. Be the prepared, thoughtful man of conviction that we all know you are. As I close, I think this is the point in most investitures' remarks where the person closes with a comment from some learned deceased individual, maybe Socrates, maybe former Chief Justice of the US Supreme Court. But I realized that this is Judge Ramsey's investiture. And if I really wanted to close in a way that was meaningful to him, I would choose a quote from one of our wisest female pop recording artists. Many of you are thinking Taylor Swift, if you don't know him well. And even if he has become a Swiftie in his older years, which we all have, there was one that came before her. Instead, only Britney Spears would do. So I leave you with the words of Britney Spears. Judge Ramsey, trust in your instincts. Trust that you know what's right. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm pretty sure Judge Ramsey was doing mission work in Tallahassee. I have that on good authority. We now will have remarks from Jack Fine, who is even more impressive in person than on the television. Good to have you here today.
Next commercial, how about that? So let me deviate just a minute from my prepared remarks. And Judge Wright, I'm going to mention you, I'm afraid. And the reason why I'm going to mention Judge Wright is because talking about mentoring, which I'll discuss a little bit in a moment, Judge Ramsey told me that one of the significant moments in his early life as an assistant state attorney was he got to try a case with Judge Wright. Stan Morris was the judge. Gloria Fletcher was opposing counsel. And it was just a wonderful experience. And such experiences before really good judges, before really good opposing counsels, develop an individual to where he could become a great advocate. And that's what Jonathan Ramsey was. So let me just start my prepared remarks. Thank you so much for inviting me to say a few words. The Florida Bar has stated that judges should be selected based on their legal abilities, temperament, and their commitment to follow the law and decide cases impartially. One of the drawbacks of a new Zoom culture that the lawyers and judges have to experience and deal with is more isolation, less professional interaction, less of a chance to watch other lawyers and judges, and less mentoring. Knowing the likes, dislikes, and quirks of the judges who will rule on your issues is critical information, particularly in a circuit like ours, where there are a limited number of criminal and civil divisions. So I'll make just a few comments on Judge Ramsey based on my personal observations. He obviously had the respect of his colleagues in the state attorney's office. We just heard about that. He interviewed with me as a potential new hire as a result of my daughter Julie's recommendation based on her interaction with JR as a colleague in the state attorney's office. She said he was a great lawyer and just someone really good to work with. As a partner in a law firm originally composed of 3 ex-public defenders, even with my daughter's state attorney affiliation, I couldn't quite shake my bias for the criminal defense side of the aisle. So what did I do? I had already received input from the state attorney's perspective, but what I really wanted is to talk to some of JR's adversaries in the criminal defense bar. It's a compliment, as you can see, when your colleagues think you do a good job, but it's even more impressive when your adversaries think you not only do a good job, but you're a person whose word is trustworthy. So I called Barbara Blunt Powell, who's in the audience here, and she had nothing but good things to say about JR from the perspective of a criminal defense lawyer who's been on opposite sides. I also feel strongly about the trial practice program at the UF Law School, which Heather mentioned. When I found out that Judge Ramsey had been a student of Carl Schwait and Craig DeThomasis, I had a more extended conversation with them and with Judge Ramsey, and here's what I found out. Back then, before the program, and I hate to say this, before the program was somewhat eviscerated by a dean who had no appreciation for the work of a trial lawyer, the usual enrollment was at least 72 students in the trial practice class each semester. It was a very popular course. At the end of the semester, the law students would compete in mock trials here in this courthouse. In this course, the lecture session was jointly taught by 2 of the best trial lawyers in Gainesville, sort of a dream team, and Judge Ramsey was superb. He won the book award, which requires not only that you win both of your mock trials with law students as juries, but that you get the highest ratings from the judges who score the proceedings. So when we circle back to the first criteria of the Florida Bar Committee on the qualification of judges, legal abilities, their first criteria, when we look at that, Judge Ramsey was simply at the top of his class. My own observations are similar. In my law firm with 4 lawyers who have tried multiple civil and criminal cases, JR was the quickest to spot applicable issues and arguments. So a word to all the lawyers who may appear before Judge Ramsey as a county or acting circuit judge. His legal abilities are really top-notch. He can listen to an argument and grasp the essentials immediately. He was the valedictorian of his high school graduating class. He won the book award as the best trial practice student, and he will understand your legal arguments. The Florida Bar wants judges who have judicial temperament, whatever that is. In our office, through the years, we've had ups and downs with lawyers and staff. It's hard to find people who are competent and easy and pleasant to get along with. Judge Ramsey is both. Everyone liked JR and felt very comfortable taking both personal and professional problems to him. His temperament is even and steady. The only complaint we ever had was from an assistant who was upset because Judge Ramsey usurped one of her favorite tasks, talking to clients on a frequent basis, keeping them advised as to what was going on in their case. Which brings me to another personality characteristic Heather already mentioned, hard work. He stayed on top of his cases and frequently knew my calendar as well as his. So another word of advice for lawyers appearing in front of Judge Ramsey. He will know what is going on in any given case. Do not make up bogus reasons for continuances. He will be on it. Just as lawyers get to know judges, the judges get to know the lawyers as well. Several other attributes need mentioning before I close. One is loyalty. Judge Ramsey could have left our firm for one of the other advertising personal injury firms in town, but he didn't. And I think loyalty was just part of the reason. He enjoyed the pace of our practice and the fact that we respected that his family had priority. Our firm allowed for a good work-life balance. And along with his family and faith-centered values, Judge Ramsey has something else that is really important as a judicial qualification. In our polarized society and in our state, where the official policy is to remove DEI considerations, it is more vital than ever to select judges who decide cases impartially, providing justice for everyone, regardless of politics, race, or sexual orientation. Fairness and lack of bias is an integral part of Judge Ramsey's personality, somehow baked into his DNA, leavened with a strong underlayment of humility. It's a really good combination for a judge. So in one very real sense, I regret losing my friend, colleague, and office mate, but I'm proud and happy that our judiciary in the 8th Judicial Circuit continues to provide our citizens with fair, impartial, and unbiased decision makers. Thank you.
Thank you so much. At this time, we'll have the presentation of the nameplate of the Honorable Mitchell D. Bishop, Union County Court Judge.
Very glad that this was under there because I really didn't know where it was until just now. So by virtue of you being invested in this office, you are now part of the Conference of County Court Judges of the state of Florida. And as the circuit representative for the 8th Judicial Circuit, it's my honor to be able to welcome you to that conference and to present you with the nameplate. And within that conference, you have a multitude of colleagues who are there to help you and for you to rely on. And I echo the Chief Judge's comments about our circuit in particular and the 10 county court judges that you are colleagues with here. We are here to work with one another, to be a team, to help each other out and serve with one another. So this plaque here is presented to you. It says County Court Judge Jonathan D. Ramsey, commissioned May 1st, 2024, presented by the Conference of County Court Judges of Florida. Welcome to the conference and welcome to the bench.
At this time, we'll have the presentation of the robe of office that will be presented by Monica Perez McMillan, the past president of the 8th Judicial Circuit Bar Association.
May it please the court, distinguished judges, members of Judge Ramsey's family, distinguished guests and friends, as immediate past president of the 8th Judicial Circuit Bar Association, it is my great privilege to be here today as we formally invest Judge Jonathan Ramsey into the judiciary of the 8th Judicial Circuit. Investiture is a weird word. If you try speaking that into your phone with Siri, it's going to change it to investigation. I found that out today as I messaged a friend that the words in and vestiaire form the roots of vestis that literally translates into robe. In its original meaning, an investiture was the robing of a new office holder in garments that symbolized authority and power. Today, it is a ceremonial custom whereby individuals are invested with office. In this case, it is the office of the judge that gives all authority, duty, and responsibility that comes with that position. Keeping with this custom, judges are presented with a black robe at their investiture. Former U.S. Supreme Court Justice Sandra Day O'Connor once stated that the tradition of wearing a black robe stands for a much broader principle. It shows that all of the judges are engaged in upholding the Constitution and the rule of law. The judicial robe is the most commonly recognized symbol in the legal system, one of at least. The black robe worn by judges symbolizes the responsibility to uphold the Constitution and rule of law, their honor and authority, and a judge's neutrality and humility as servants of the people. Our judges and courts each day strive to ensure the fair, impartial, and independent administration of justice so that all citizens and attorneys are treated with respect, dignity, and fairness. We entrust them to make some of the most important decisions that protect our liberties and our fundamental and sacred rights as set forth in the Bill of Rights. Judges ensure that everyone receives a fair shake in the application of our laws. I am proud that I am an attorney in the 8th Judicial Circuit. Throughout the state, you're going to hear this all day today. Everyone knows us for our professionalism. Our esteemed judiciary is a large part of why we have this reputation, and I am confident that Judge Ramsey will continue to uphold this standard. I am further confident that Judge Ramsey will perform his duties of the office with honor, professionalism, neutrality, humility, and virtue. As a colleague and friend, and now to call you Your Honor, I am so incredibly proud of your elevation to the county bench. On behalf of the local bar, it's my honor and privilege to welcome you and present you with this black robe, which we are sure that you will wear with distinction. I wish you all the best, and I'd love to call upon Sabrina, Anya, Maya up now.
This time we'll have a welcome to the bench by the Honorable, it is still Susan Miller Jones, is that correct? In fairness, I just met Judge Ferrero and Judge Wilson Bullard 30 years ago. It hasn't been, we haven't known them that long. Judge Susan Miller Jones.
So let me start out by saying, Counsel, you stole my speech. Thank you for the introduction to the speech I'm about to give. So it'll sound a little familiar. Greetings, honored guests, Chief Judge, fellow judges, elected officials, friends and family of Judge Ramsey. May it please the court. Judge Ramsey, thank you so much for asking Counsel and I to speak today. I appreciate the opportunity. Now, I tried to write a little lighthearted speech and make it humorous. Welcome to the bench. I had that conversation with you the other night. Tried about a dozen times and I got nowhere. And according to my husband, you're not that funny. So here we are. A little disclaimer, if you're not laughing on cue or at least smiling, let's just keep it between us. You know, it's like Vegas. What happens at the investiture stays at the investiture. Okay, that's what we're going to do today. Every day we come to work, whether it's the civil building or the criminal building, and we meet folks, individuals, just regular everyday folks. They come to the court, to the people's court, seeking relief. Now, for those of you folks that are neither lawyer or judge in the courtroom. The People's Court, or at least it's called the People's Court because that's where the vast amount of work comes from. It's cases like civil traffic tickets. I know none of you, I've never seen you in court before, so it doesn't apply to you. Civil traffic tickets, citizen disputes, less serious criminal cases, and then there's also small claims. That's where Judge Ramsey is assigned. Now, I know he takes his role seriously as county court judge. Now, I say that because, well, let me stop before I go any further. I'm sure quite a few of us have his cell phone number, right? You can go ahead and say yes, okay? That profile picture, it dawned on me the other day when I called him at the end of the day. He has a little side hustle, and I didn't realize that till I saw the photo, and I realized he's self-proclaimed president, CEO of some business called Princess Security. So I think that's a fancy word for he's a girl dad. And he takes that role seriously. I know he is going to take this role seriously. I've seen him as an attorney in court. I have observed him as a judge. I found him to be humble and kind, knowledgeable in the law, and he has issued well thought out rulings. Now, some 10 years ago, we all had or at least I did, had the benefit of hearing from Ray Brady when he too gave me my robe. And I'm going to say sort of what counsel said, slightly different. The investiture is a formal ceremony. It is an ancient tradition or ritual. It is Latin for to put on or to dress oneself in a robe. This robe is symbolic. Chief Judge is correct. Every time we have one of these investitures, it is not just a gentle reminder of what we're supposed to be doing, how we're supposed to be doing it, method and manner. It reminds us all of why we're here. The robe is symbolic. It's not just about what the judge wears. It's what the plain black robe stands for. A judge's personal preference does not make law. And let me explain that a little bit further. Wearing this robe means suppressing one's personal views. If I say it another way, the law speaks through the judge. So, Judge Ramsey, the cloaking of this robe places you in an office which must be upheld with honor, authority, power, and peppered in humility. Furthermore, the black robe, because we all recognize it, calls on us, and now you, Judge Ramsey, to be fairer, more polite, more patient, more discerning, both slower and quicker to judgment, all in just the right degree. And truthfully, the robe activates your potential, our potential, to simply be a better you, a better us. In closing, I want you to remember a few things. You cannot please everyone, so please don't try. And Socrates, counsel, I tell you, I should not leave my laptop open in the office. Socrates said 4 things belong to a judge, so let's own it. Listen courteously, answer wisely, consider soberly, and decide impartially. And please know that your fellow judges are here to assist you whenever you need. And just as the 21st century poet said, Drake, you can call me on your cell phone. The people of Alachua County are expecting you to be a good steward over all that you've been entrusted. And I know this final statement is going to probably reveal my age, but I couldn't resist. And as the great theologian Sammy Davis Jr. once said, here comes the judge. Come on up to the bench. Welcome.
You all can be seated. This is all honestly, truly humbling. I've been to a couple of these investitures, but I've never been on this side of it before and seen how it's actually done. And I don't think I ever really appreciated just how much work goes into these investitures. So first, I want to thank the people that helped make this happen. And she's walking out of the courtroom right now. Christy Kane, thank you very much for... Christy put a lot of time and a lot of energy into making today happen. She is most responsible for it. And I can tell you, I was an unwilling partner the entire way and was not very helpful when it came to making decisions. But thank you, Christy, for all of the help that you were on this. I literally couldn't have done it without you. I want to also thank the court IT people and all the technology people that went into making this happen as well. I know we're recording it and it's going out there. A lot of stuff goes on behind the scenes that we don't even know about. So to everyone who helped move benches and tables and podiums and spent time just to help make this happen, I do see you. I do appreciate you. Thank you for all of the work that you did. I want to thank everybody who was involved here today in this whole proceedings. Chief, excuse me, Chief Sandusky, Sheriff Gainey, I appreciate you both taking time to be here today and everything you do to help keep our citizens safe. Thank you for being here. I want to thank Bishop Stokes, and later we're going to hear from Minister Dillon. I thank you both for your prayers, and I ask you guys humbly, don't let today be the only day you guys are issuing a prayer on my behalf. I ask that you guys pray for me as I continue my tenure as an Alachua County judge. I think they all took off because they're all 7 years old, and I don't blame them, but I did want to thank Troop 775 for being the absolute cutest part of the entire investiture here today. I want to thank Monica and, of course, the 8th Judicial Circuit Bar Association for this wonderful robe. I do appreciate it. It is something I will use every day. So thank you very much for this incredible gift. I want to thank some of the judges that spoke here today. We all know, obviously, Judge Mosley is the chief. I don't know if everyone also knew, I think it was said that Judge Bishop is our elected official for the county court conferences. And we just had one of those conferences, and Judge Bishop went out of his way every time to make sure I was sitting at his table, talking to me, teaching me whenever the lessons were going on. So thank you, Judge Bishop. And we have our administrative judge of all the county judges here in Alachua County, Judge Miller Jones. I appreciate everything you guys have to say, as well as the great example of leadership that all of you guys are here for me to learn from. A few other judges I want to call special attention to. I want to thank you to Judge Wilson Bullard, my beginning mentor judge, who really helped me transition from being a lawyer to this role and trying to make it as seamless as possible. And then she handed off the reins to Judge Van Voorst. I can't say enough good things about Judge Van Voorst. As I think everyone may know, I got Judge Green's division number, Division 5, but I inherited Judge Van Voorst's docket. And she went out of her way, probably stayed late at work many nights to make sure that docket was in pristine condition, to make sure it was well under control so that I had the luxury of not being in hearings every single second of the day, but could actually take a breath and try to learn all these new areas of the law. And then, of course, when I don't know something, she answers the phone every single time I call, every single time I text. I'm very lucky to have someone like you helping me. Thank you, Judge Van Voorst. And although she's not my mentor judge, she might as well be. I want to thank Judge Ferrero, who every second of the way, I think for all of us, if we have a question, we go to Judge Ferrero, and she's always there with a helping hand, a smile, willing to do whatever she can. Thank you, Judge Ferrero, for all the help you've been to me these first couple months. I truly appreciate it. Now, the rest of the judges have been very helpful too. I think every single one has called me, emailed me, texted me, taken me out to lunch. Everyone has been very, very kind, and I do appreciate every one of you. I'll give you a little bit of a peek behind the curtain of this whole application, interview process, and hopefully I'm allowed to share this. If not, it'll be a very short tenure for me as judge, but you apply and there's just many, many interviews. And the first interview is with the local JNC. And so you sit there at that table in the same building, and they start asking all these questions. And one of the questions I was asked was, if you're chosen, what 8th Circuit judge, what local judge do you think you'll be the most liked? And I didn't answer the question because maybe that's my political background. You reject the premise of every question, you answer the question that you want answered. So I didn't give an answer because, see, I've been very blessed. I've been very fortunate. I've done trials in Gilchrist County. I've done trials in Levy County, Bradford County, Alachua. I've done civil trials, criminal trials. I've practiced in front of pretty much every judge here on my left and right, but everyone on my left. And so what I did instead of answering the question that they asked is I mentioned every single judge pretty much that I have practiced in front of and what trait, what skill I've been learning. What thing I taught that I'm going to try to make my own, what I stole from that particular judge to make my own craft. And when I was done, it was Brian Kramer, who's a part of the local JNC, looked at me and said, "Are you done? Anybody else you want to name drop? I've met them all. They're not that good. Trust me." He didn't actually say that last line, but the story makes it a little bit better. But thank you all for everything you guys have taught me along the way. I do want to bring up Judge Wright just for a second. Thank you for swearing me in, and I appreciate you being a part of this special day for me. As it's been brought out, I interned at the state attorney's office, and Heather Jones was the intern coordinator. And for some reason, 1 year, she let me intern directly under George Wright. I'm convinced this was Heather's very early attempt to sabotage and derail my legal career before it ever got started. But despite George's best efforts, I am here today. But seriously, Judge Wright, I appreciate you so much. I can't think of anyone who has always been there to give me sound, practical advice, to listen to what I have to say, no matter the topic, always make me laugh and put me in a good mood, but always just be there. I wouldn't be here without you, so thank you very much. That brings me to Heather Jones. We'll have to talk later about some of that stuff that you said. You know, it's interesting, some of the parts you brought out. I did this speech a couple of times. It was too long. And believe it or not, I did cut the entire Brittany section out. There was a section about her, and I cut it out because it was too long. So I'm glad you were able to involve her here today. But when I think about my time in the state attorney's office with Heather Jones, I think about a quote from The Office, and it's the series finale with Andy Bernard and him saying, "I wish there was a way of knowing you were in the good old days while you were actually going through them." I really enjoyed being a felony attorney. I certainly enjoyed my time at Fine Far Cash and Parlor Piano, and I like my job now, but there was something special about those county court days. I don't know if it was the people involved, the attorneys we had, but some of my favorite memories as a lawyer are sitting in Heather Jones' office at the end of a day, talking about life and talking about our cases. The camaraderie with my coworkers, my friends, they were amazing days. And Heather, I hope you take pride, because that group of prosecutors, the years before me and the years after me, we've all gone on to, I think, some pretty good things. And I hope you take pride in that. And I hope it's a testament to you about the environment that you foster and how you teach us and allow us to also grow. I don't think any of us could have done it without you. I know I certainly couldn't have. So thank you very much. And that brings us to Jack Fine. You know, I said previously that some of my favorite days at the state attorney's office were the end of the days, but with my time at Fine Far Cash and Parlor Piano, my favorite memories come early in the morning. I loved all my clients. I loved all of my coworkers, who many of you are here today, and I do appreciate you all coming. But my favorite moments at Fine Far Cash and Parlor Piano were my early morning, first thing in the morning conversations with Jack Fine, talking about our cases, talking about life. I didn't know him before I started working there. I mean, I knew of him. You don't practice law in Gainesville without knowing Jack Fine, but I didn't actually know him. And then he became my boss. Then he became my mentor. And then he became one of my closest friends. I've probably spent more time with Jack Fine over the last 6 years than any other person in the world. You're not going to meet a better man than him. Sir, I thank you very much for helping me support my family, investing in me as a lawyer, and investing in me as a man. I really appreciate you. Hopefully, you've forgiven me for abandoning you and taking this position. I do want to thank one other person who's been brought up today who isn't here, and that is Judge Green. Because again, I did take over his division, Division 5, and I did practice in front of him and I learned a great deal. And it was very important to Judge Green that you not only learn to be a lawyer, but that you learn to be a professional. And he made sure everyone who stepped foot in his courtroom was cordial and respectful, and you treated everyone with dignity. And he took it upon himself to take us baby prosecutors and us baby public defenders, and he would force us to have lunch together. And he would take us and explain the law to us, but also help forge those friendships. And I made a lot of real, genuine friendships with those people I went against every single day. And those lunches helped because it helps you see the humanity of everyone. And that was something that Judge Green was a big proponent of. I'll never forget the first time I practiced in front of Judge Green, though. Another attorney by the name of Ken Keith had been promoted to felony, and I took over his traffic docket. And it was my first time in traffic arraignment. And traffic arraignment's a little bit different, right? In the sense that, at least when I was doing it, you were in there alone. Every other court event, you have a partner there with you. But at traffic arraignment, it's just you, no partner, no supervision. So I walk into my first ever traffic arraignment. At least I thought I was alone. For who knows what reason, Ken Keith chose to follow at a distance and sit in the background and just monitor the court proceedings. But I came into my first traffic arraignment in front of Judge Green. And something the state attorney's office did back then that I think they still do now, which is if you get your license valid or reinstated by arraignment and you're charged with no valid driver's license or driving a license suspended or revoked, if you get it reinstated by arraignment, we drop the case. So we were going through the docket and we came across one that I dismissed. The defendant stands up and says, "Thank you, Judge Green," and walks out of the courtroom. We proceed through the docket. We get to another person whose case I dismissed. And once again, the person thanked Judge Green. And at this point, he stops court. He stops and calls that person back up. And he said, "Guys, I want to make sure everyone's very clear about something. I didn't do anything. You don't need to be thanking me. The person you need to be thanking is that man, Jonathan Ramsey. He's the one that dropped your case. He's the one that did it. I didn't do anything." It's a lot for a baby prosecutor to take in. The docket proceeded. We had a few more dismissals and people thanked me. Then we're starting to get to the end of the docket. We have somebody, another case that ended up being with a dismissal because they got a valid license. And he goes, "Judge Green, I'd like to shake Mr. Ramsey's hand, if that's okay." And he said, "Sure, if you'd like, go ahead." So he walked over to potentially even that desk right there, looked me in the eyes, shook my hand, and told me thank you. At that point, we were down to the last case on the docket, and it was one that ended up getting dismissed as well for having a valid license. And as I'm making the announcement, Judge Green has already got that side smile on his face and is already chuckling to himself, rubbing his chin. And I'm just thinking, oh no, what is he about to do? And he says to the defendant, and I don't remember if it was a man or a woman at this point, but he says to the defendant, "The last person gave Mr. Ramsey or shook Mr. Ramsey's hand. What can you do to beat that?" So the person says, "I'd like to give him a hug." And so I don't know what to do at this point, but sure, why not? We have some very awkward hug to end court. So court concludes. I walk back to the state attorney's office. I walk up the stairs, and as I'm walking to my office, I pass by Heather's. As I'm walking by, she says, "You, my office now." It's like, oh my gosh, what did I do? My first traffic arraignment. How did I already ruin this? So I sit down. And she says, "Why am I getting reports? Why am I getting emails that you will drop people's cases if they will give you a hug?" And then we hear from the hallway, Ken Keith just laughing uncontrollably. I think at that point, that's when Heather banished Ken from the second floor and said he was no longer allowed to monitor county court. But that was Judge Green, right? I tell that story because that's what he taught me. This job isn't about you. There's no ego in this job. And I remember that to this day. One other person I'd like to thank, and that's my judicial assistant, Delatron Hunter. Delatron was Judge Green's JA. And the very, very first thing I did, my first decision as a judge, was calling Delatron and not really asking, begging Delatron to stay on and be my judicial assistant. And luckily for me, she said yes. She is a wealth of information. She exudes class and confidence and has helped me every step of the way. It's kind of eerie. I think she would admit that sometimes already we are already on the same page and thinking about the same case, even if we have no reason to be thinking about that particular case. We both happen to be working on it at the same time. I can't wait to see how much more connected we can get and how much more in sync we can get over the years to come. But I do recognize how lucky I am to have somebody with you during this adventure and ride. Thank you, Delatron. A few other people I'd like to thank. I'd like to thank Alana Gibson for giving me to date the best gift I've ever received, and that's my daughter, Sabrina Ramsey. When I made the decision to apply for this job and do the interviews, I had a lot of conversations with you, as I knew this would affect you in your life as well. But you have always cheerleaded me taking on this role and been supportive and encouraging the entire way. So thank you. I'd like to thank Maya DeBose. Maya, you are incredibly intelligent and incredibly athletic. But what I appreciate most about you is your innate goodness and kindness and your limitless creativity. You aren't my blood, but make no mistake about it, you're certainly a part of my heart. And I appreciate and can't believe that you're allowing me to be a part of your life. Thank you. To your mother, Anna, who I'm sure is annoyed that I'm referencing her today, thank you for being my friend. I'm not really sure how we became friends, but we've been friends for quite a while now. We've been friends through good times and happy times and times that we laugh. But they always say that the sign of a true friend are friends that are with you in the tough times, times that aren't so good, times when somebody's world shatters. And you have always been there for me to support me and encourage me and help me. And you are also one of the very few people I know that is not afraid to call me out on things and to hold me accountable. I appreciate your friendship. I want to thank my dad, David Ramsey. I could spend a lot of time talking about all the lessons that my dad taught me, but for brevity purposes, I'll talk about one. And that's that showing up matters. My dad was a high school history teacher. And when he wasn't teaching, he was grading papers or grading homework or preparing for Sunday school. He always had a lot to do around the house, but he always made time for me. He was at every single baseball practice, whatever other sport I was doing, he was there. Every middle school play, he was always there. He made sure he demonstrated to me that showing up matters. Thank you, Dad. I want to thank my mother, Sally Ramsey. My mom is incredibly intelligent and incredibly successful, but you would never know that if you talked to her. But she can't be bothered to ever think about or do anything for herself. She is the most selfless person I have ever met. And she gives and gives and gives, especially if it's to her children or to her grandchildren. Mom, I think I got your eyes, which is why it's my favorite part or my favorite physical feature about me. But what's more important to me is hopefully I got your humility and your selflessness, because to me, that's much more important. I am sitting here today because of a lot of people in this room and a lot of people who couldn't be here today. But I know without a shadow of a doubt, the one person that is most responsible for me being here is you. Thank you, Mom. I couldn't have ever been here without you. I want to thank my daughter, Sabrina Jean Ramsey, my number one, 7 years old, going on 13, full of sass and eye rolls. Now, ever since I got this job, my relationship with her has changed, because before she couldn't be bothered to ever talk about my work. It was boring and she wasn't interested. But now that I'm a judge at dinner time, Takes at least 5 minutes before she turns the iPad on. Now she wants to hear, what was your day? What did you do? Were you in criminal? Were you in civil? Tell me about what happened. Did you take someone's animals away? Did you find somebody? Did you send somebody to jail? And she just asks all of these questions. And she's watched more first appearances than almost anybody I know already at the age of 7, because she seems to be completely captured with it. She's already decided, she's changed future professions. She's already decided she wants to be a judge now. She's adamant she doesn't want to be a lawyer because that sounds terrible. And I'm not sure I disagree with her. So I'm not sure how she's going to be a judge if she's never going to be a lawyer, but I know better than to ever doubt you, Sabrina. You are so kind, so thoughtful. You are always watching, always studying. You're too clever. You got a memory that's already causing me problems, but I love you more than words can say. And it doesn't matter how many times you call me cringe. That's never going to change. To my wife, Anya Bach. I'm a judge now. You would think that's pretty impressive, but I know it doesn't matter. I know I'm the reacher in this relationship. I know that I will never be as accomplished as you. Anya Bach is a professor over at the UF Veterinarian School, and she is a large animal surgeon. She regularly performs surgeons on pigs, goats, cows, alpacas, and her specialty is horses. She's also been called to do surgery on tigers or manatees for Disney, or consult on walruses at SeaWorld. And, if ever there is a horse at Disney World that has a stomach issue, they call Dr. Anya Bach. She's incredibly accomplished. She's also very direct. And one story when I think about Anya's directness is when we sat down for dinner one day. And we sat down for dinner, and she was talking about a coworker of hers that had recently gotten married. And I remember this coworker, so I made the mistake. It was a mistake is what it was. I made the mistake of saying, I didn't even realize she was engaged. To which Anya replied, yes, Jonathan, some people actually move forward in their relationships and life and don't just stay in the same place forever. Somehow I was able to pick up that hint. But the funny part is she was so preoccupied with wanting to be engaged, she completely missed the proposal when it happened. I thought I had a good idea. I know she likes going for walks. She likes going for runs. She loves going to state parks, especially if we can take her dog, Jack. Sorry, that had nothing to do with Jack Fine, but her dog, Jack, on walks to the state park. So Anya's normally on call during the weekends, but this one Saturday, she happened to be off. So I had this all arranged. I had already kind of planted the seed that we should go for a hike with her dog at Alino State Park. I had a friend that she didn't know that was going to be there to take pictures of it. It was all planned out. So we get there. Problem number one, the bridge that I was planning on proposing after you pass is closed down. I have to pick a different route. Okay, we can call an audible. We can figure that out. No big deal. So we begin walking. And my friend, whose son was a good soldier and came with her, was walking probably 30 to 40 yards behind us, minding their own business. That was the mistake I made. See, I'd forgotten that Anya doesn't like going hikes around anybody else. It annoys her, it upsets her, it gives her anxiety, especially if she has her dog with her. So we began going down this hike, taking different paths, and my friend begins to take those same paths. And Anya's starting to get angry. What are these people doing? There's an entire state park. We're the only 4 people here. Why are they going down every single path we're going? Jonathan, we got to power walk. We speed up. We got to lose them. So we begin to walk really fast. Unfortunately for Anya, they also began to walk really fast because they had to keep up with us. So now she's getting very angry, very frustrated, and this is just going horribly. So I quickly text my friend, just pass us. We'll figure it out, pass us, because Anya is so flustered about all of this. So they pass us, and we find a spot that I think is kind of picturesque. So I get down on one knee and propose, but looking at her dog, trying to figure out where these pesky people were and what was going around. I think it was on my knee for about 2 minutes before she realized that she was actually being proposed to. They say the key to finding someone to love is to not just find someone who takes your breath away, but someone who reminds you to breathe. It should be acknowledged and it should be stated that you absolutely do take my breath away. But what is even more important is that you remind me to breathe, that you help me deal with the anxiety and the stress of every day, something that's only going to get worse with this job, but that you help me find peace. You are a wonderful stepmother to Sabrina. And I believe I have permission to announce here today that I know you will be a good mother to the future baby girl Ramsey coming in March 2025. I think I was allowed to announce that. If not, it's going to be a very uncomfortable ride home. All right. When I asked Judge Ferreira some ideas about what to speak about, all she told me was don't go too long. And I think I've already broken that rule, but bear with me a little bit more as I talk very briefly about how I got here. We've already talked about my childhood, so we don't really need to talk so much about that or being in high school or my undergrad years. But after I graduated in communications from Florida State, I went back to Miami and I worked for the Florida Marlins because I did want to be in sports broadcasting or sports reporting, as was previously stated. I actually did want to do that. And I worked for the Marlins for a year, and it was a lot of fun. We weren't exactly a winning team, but it was a fun year. But it wasn't fulfilling. It didn't feel like I was doing something substantial. It wasn't exactly something that filled me with pride when I went home. So I decided that I wanted to shift gears and find something new. I wanted something else where there was competition, where people talked about how great they were and how much they hated their opponent. So naturally, politics was the perfect fit. So I didn't know anything about politics. So I came back to the University of Florida and I got my master's in political science, specifically in the campaigning program. Back then, it was being run by Dr. Craig, and there were two parts to that program: an academic side taught by professors, and I had some truly great professors, Professor Dan Smith, Professor Michael Martinez, among a few others, that really teach you the science behind politics, what makes people tick, what makes people vote the way they do. And there was another component to it that was the practical side that teaches you how to actually do the things. So we had a lobbying class taught by an actual lobbyist. We had a campaign management class taught by an actual campaign manager. And it was just a truly remarkable experience. Through that program, I got to work on a winning congressional campaign. And the program was very nice to me. I mean, I was working in a congressional campaign down in South Florida while also attending my classes that fall at the University of Florida. And this is way before we had Zoom years. So they were going above and aboard to try to accommodate me while I tried to work in this campaign while also continue my classes. And we did win that campaign. And I was offered a job to go to DC when I graduated from college, or graduated with my master's. And I am truly thankful for that master's degree and what everyone taught me. I probably didn't demonstrate that in the best way because rather than take that job, I decided to go back to school and get my law degree. And I'm sure I disappointed them in that. And for that, I am sorry. Then I went to law school here at the University of Florida. And that's where the last twist that got me here took place. Did all my 1L year classes. But in my second year of law school, as it's been talked about, I took a class called Trial Practice, taught by Craig DeThomas and Carl Schwait, two very prominent attorneys in Gainesville. Now, as you heard, there was supposed to be an even number amount of people in that class, and you had a partner that you were supposed to do everything with. But as fate may have it, at the last second, somebody dropped out and dropped ad, and the class got locked with an odd amount of people. So I'll never forget, I'm sitting there in class toward the beginning of the semester, and they announced that they've randomly chosen somebody to be by themselves, to not have a partner. And of course, it was me. So I didn't have a partner. I'll never forget the kindness that now Judge Thomas's and Carl Schwait showed me and said, hey, here's our cell phone number. If you need someone to bounce an idea off us, give us a call. I never thought they were serious. I mean, they have real clients. They are doing very important things. And I only called them each once because I didn't want to abuse that privilege, but they most certainly answered. And each time, or when I talked to each one of them, they answered any and all questions I could have and gave me all the time that I asked for. They were incredible teachers. I don't have any kind of legal background. My parents were teachers. One grandfather was a teacher. The other grandfather served in the armed forces. I never did debate or anything like that growing up. I could always talk, but it was all raw skill, I guess you could say. But I didn't know what I was doing. But Carl and Craig really taught me the foundation of everything I know and really went out of their way to teach me. And I did do pretty well in the class. But one thing about that class, and one reason that it's truly important, not just because of the practical skills it teaches you, but the people it introduces you to. Because every single small group leader, every single end of the year judge is a lawyer that practices in Gainesville. That class helps you make connections. And it was no exception for me. I'll never forget my very first trial. You end up doing two, but my very first trial, walking in again alone by myself, and my judge is Jeannie Singer. Now, I said that Craig and Carl taught me a lot, but they did sandbag me a little bit, because one thing they taught us was, well, we can't teach you everything. So we're not going to bother to teach you how to mark things for identification. Don't worry about that. In fact, at the beginning of your trial, just say, Judge, we have some housekeeping matters. And one of those housekeeping matters is, can we assume everything's been pre-marked for identification? The judge will say yes. They'll check it off the list that you did it, and you can proceed. So I step into that courtroom, first time ever in a courtroom, by myself, Judge Singer at the bench. Judge, we have some housekeeping matters. Can we just assume that everything's been pre-marked for identification? You may not. As I'm cursing Craig and Carl under my breath at that point and frantically trying to find what page that was on some textbook I read 4 or 5 months ago, it was probably only a few seconds, but it felt like a year that I stood there in pure panic. But I did okay. I did okay on that trial nonetheless. And it was the next day, when somebody else was at trial, that Jeannie Singer called me up to the podium during one of the breaks. And I approached, and she said, Mr. Ramsey, you better be applying to work at the state attorney's office. And I told her I can't do that. I'm only a 2L. And so I've got, another year or so before I start applying. She said, even better, I expect to see you interning at the state attorney's office very soon. And I did. I interned, I externed, I volunteered, I did anything and everything I could do over the next year and a half at the state attorney's office. And when it was done, I begged Mr. Cervone to please start paying me money. And that sucker fell for it, and he did, and hired me for the job. So just a few final things about Mr. Cervone and Miss Singer. Every young attorney has heard the legend, the myth that is Mr. Cervone, but you hardly ever got to see us practice at that point. In fact, in my 6 years at the state attorney's office, I only got to see him do one hearing, but he lived up to the legend. He was a true legal heavyweight. And I remember that conversation. It's funny you bring that up, Heather. I do remember that conversation about my whole name change. And what I think actually happened was we began taking suggestions from people on what to call me. And my recollection of it is our clerk, Jesse Irby, who is actually the one who came up with the nickname JR that I've been going by ever since. So I think credit goes to him for that. But the thing that always impressed me about Mr. Cervone the most, besides, his legal skills, was I think he is the softest, quietest walker I have ever heard, I guess, or not heard is the way of saying it. I am somebody who startles very easily, and I probably had about 15 heart attacks from when he just teleported in front of my desk and I had no idea that he was there. But he was an incredible first boss and someone I was lucky to have. And that leads us to Jeannie Singer. Everyone knows that she will do anything for a friend, But as someone who is one of her young attorneys, I can also tell you she defended us with every fiber of her being. Mama Bear protecting her cubs is an understatement. I felt sorry for any defense attorney who ever wanted to complain about us because you had to go through her. And she was going to fight like hell to protect every one of us. Made us feel incredibly supportive, incredibly loved. And I appreciate her loyalty and everything she had to teach me. And then, of course, I left to go to Fine Far Cash and Parlor Piano, where I had an amazing 6 years as well. So that's how I got here. So looking forward, I've already made some promises and swore some oaths, maybe one incorrectly that we had to redo, but I've made some promises, but I want to make some additional promises to you all here today. Because when it comes to having a job, when it comes to having a vocation, all I've ever really wanted is two things: to be able to provide for my family and to use the gifts that I believe my Creator has given me to help my community. I believe I can do that with this job. So I make these promises to you guys here today. I promise that I will work hard. I promise that I will always be straightforward. As it's been said, I will continue to always be prepared. People may not always like my rulings, but I can promise people you will be heard. Because it's my goal to help this community and to maintain the strong reputation and the name of this 8th Judicial Circuit Judiciary. Thank you, everyone, very much.
And ladies and gentlemen, in just a few moments, we're going to be adjourned. It'll be Letchworth County Chief of Police Jesse Sandusky will adjourn court here in just a few moments. But after we're adjourned, there's a reception that we hope that you'll join Judge Ramsey and his family, and it's right outside the courtroom, so we'll all be gathering there for a little bit after we adjourn. At this time, I'm going to have everyone stand, if you would, and Minister Donnie Dillon is going to lead our benediction. He is the minister of the Sun Life Church of Christ. See you, Donnie.
Let us pray. Father in heaven, we are so thankful for the investiture of our newest county court judge, the Honorable Jonathan Ramsey. And Lord, we're thankful that we could come together as those who uphold the law, as colleagues, as friends, and as family, Father. And Lord, we are thankful for the family of Jonathan for helping make the man that he is today, Father. And Lord, bless Judge Ramsey as he is a blessing to all of us in this room. And Lord, that he is a blessing to those that he judges over. And Lord, help him judge with the qualities that you value, Father, with compassion, with fairness, with justice, and with mercy. And Lord, we are thankful that we come together on this monumentous occasion, Father, and that we can enjoy this food and fellowship together. It's your Son's holy and precious name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, ceremonial session of the 8th Judicial Circuit is now adjourned.
Welcome.
Hold on.
I know this much. In the future, I'm going to have a list of all the judges' names along with.
You're amazing.
Nina, she's right back there. She's about to get it.